what's the significance of having a special day dedicated to the issue of data?
In development studies, particularly public policy, there's a slang that is often used that after God, the next thing is data. Data is the driver of everything for national development. So, and we've moved away just beyond data as data, but now we're not talking about evidence-based data that can drive development, that can drive public policy. So data essentially is the fulcrum on which every other things rest on. So if you're talking about population growth, you're talking about micro and macroeconomic indicators. Data are what shapes our development in a nutshell.
I quite agree with you, because when it comes to planning, you need the right framework to plan. You need the right tool to plan. And one of the critical tools when it comes to planning is data. You know, yesterday I was doing a personal research. I wanted data on a particular subject, but unfortunately I didn't get it. In fact, data related to Africa, I didn't get it, because most of the time in this client, when it comes to gathering of data, it's always challenging, unlike in the other client. Interestingly, I got the data for the other client. You know, I wanted, you know, for the different continents, you know.
Okay, but so, you get the exact data from this part of the world.
Yeah, but the concern also is how reliable is this data, you know, when which is why the FRC is talking about connecting the world with data that we can trust. You talk about reliability, not that data that are being doctored, and that's
manipulated.
Why, yeah. And that's why the attention is being drawn to the importance of having reliable data, which is why a day like this is very critical.
Yes, and some time ago on the show, we talked about data localism, localizing data, because some of the data that we have or we use for certain things regarding healthcare, regarding even social development, the indices, are gotten from international clients, are gotten from international authorities. But data localism talk about generating the data locally, using the data, interpreting the data locally, and not relying on international bodies, which seem to be like another form of colonialism, which we refer to as neocolonialism. But apart from that aspect of it, it also helps us when data is generated authentically, locally. You can then know this is the real situation. And then when it is interpreted by local statisticians and interpreted by local analysts as well, and used to make decisions, inform the policies, then we'll begin to get the benefit. Because when data sometimes is generated outside the area of the concern, some factors could play out. It may not actually reflect the situation. It may not be totally credible. And so the reliability on it is just like you doing things without having the exact information that you need. So I think we need to do more in our schools. I know that statistics is one department that some people run from because they do not want to do all of these calculations and some other things. But schools at different level and government agencies, that's one department that I think is very key. We must begin to encourage people to get into that. And it's very necessary that policymakers use data. They work hand in hand with the statistics unit. In Nigeria, we have the NBS. So they often supply data regarding different aspects of the nation. So it's very key.
I agree with you. In recent times, you know, the NBS, that's Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, has been doing well to ensure that the statistics needed for economic planning for the month, especially when it comes to inflation rate or the consumer price index, is being released every month. And then all the statistics that has to do with national planning. We've been doing that, and I hope they will do more so that at least we can have access to reliable data. Sam, I would like you to talk to us. You know, she talked about data localism. What can we do to ensure that we improve this aspect so that data is available to whoever needs it?
I think the challenge in Nigeria in particular is that we have data, but to what extent can we synchronize this data for national development? So the key for the National Bureau of Statistics is to find a way to extend the net of how they can aggregate the various data that are in silo today so that we can aggregate them beyond the traditional data mechanism that currently exists, and when Blessing mentioned data localism, there are new clamor globally that data should be situated within communities, and so that beyond the GDP as a base of national income calculation, other kinds of environmental factors should be added as indicators so that we can really count for people's wealth, and that wealth, the data that is generated, can impact on the communities directly. So data is central, like I mentioned earlier. So the National Bureau of Statistics must find a way to aggregate this data and find a way to see how the various data that are in silo, like I mentioned earlier, are put in one pool for national planning.
All right, moving on, the next news item is about a third mainland bridge. If you apply that bridge like I do every day, this news is for you. This weekend, you know, commuters are using the third mainland bridge this weekend may have to look for alternative route, as the federal government has announced the closure of that bridge starting from Saturday. If I apply that bridge every day, let me tell you my experience. Honestly, that bridge is turning to a death trap. The potholes on that bridge so appalling, so disturbing, that even while you're driving, you need to be extra careful. Because you have to be careful that you endanger your life. You know, you have to tactically maneuver while driving, because
and
the
this
potholes,
maneuvering can
oh
cause
my
accidents.
God, it's something else. You know, this was a facility or a bridge that was built over 30 years ago. And you expect that the agencies that ought to maintain that bridge will do their work, you know, regularly. A few months ago, closure was done, and you will have expected that it will have lasted for a while. But I'm happy this time around, they now see the need to close that bridge for this weekend. But what that means is heavy traffic in Lagos. Sam, what do you think?
Well, it's welcoming, but it's delayed. I equally use that bridge on a daily basis. Even last week, I was almost endangered. Just a little way that I was lucky with one of the potholes. What is important is that the agency that is responsible for developing that bridge must constantly find a way to do the work early so that we don't get this level of damage to the bridge. It's just the gateway between the mainland and the island, so it's very strategic for commerce, and people are commuting through that road. Hopefully, if this work is done just only the weekend and they're able to fix those damage points, then there's a ray of hope, and I hope that the chaotic traffic situation between the mainland and the island will not be so negatively impact on business from next week. But I hope that the work is just done on the weekend, is welcoming, but then the director of the Federal Ministry of Work that is responsible for that must find a way to liaise with the Federal Road Safety Corps in a way that they can manage the flow of traffic so that we don't have a chaotic situation.
Well, it is good that the maintenance is scheduled to happen over the weekend, but I hope that after the weekend, we don't Monday begin to see that not much was done, so people need to still go through the pains of passing through a road or driving on a road that is not so motorable. So I hope they're able to do much. It's a weekend, though people will have reasons to connect from the mainland to the island and that way too. But maybe some persons can afford to stay home if you don't want to get into much trouble trying to get to the mainland, or from the island get into from the mainland get into the island. Use the weekends to
I'm
do
wondering
other
how
things.
that is going to be that easy, because it's the busiest bridge in Lagos.
Yes.
It connects the mainland to the island, and you know, weekend is usually for activities. People want to go out, business activities, commercial activities, social events.
If
and
there are
all
things
that.
you can do
Anyway, Femi, there are
remotely,
two
It's a
maybe
alternative routes
necessity, anyway.
to connect.
Yeah.
The other two alternative routes to connect from the mainland to the island.
they
So
will be
let's see if people are
congested
able
as
to-
well. But if you can do it remotely, why not? Otherwise, rest and save yourself the stress. Reschedule whatever you can.
You can, and that's why the notice is coming early, so that
Yes.
you can reschedule your activity and movement. All right. Let's move on. The next story is about the Nigerian Union of Journalists and Poland Media Association have signed a memorandum of understanding MOU to enhance media exchange, expose journalists to the professional dynamics and cooperation between the two countries. Now, the MOU between NUJ, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and Poland Media Association is to expose journalists, to the professional dynamics and cooperation between the two countries. Talk to us. What kind of impact will this have on journalists, especially Nigerian journalists?
Great impact, particularly from the perspective of study exchange between Nigerian journalists and those of Poland. I think that will be there will be knowledge transfer, global practices, and current trend in journalism. We help to shape reportage back home. So I think it's a welcome development, and we need to exploit that kind of study and exchange that will improve. On the other hand, too, those from Poland should be able to see the perspective, the way we report our own news from Nigeria to the world, and that will help to shape information, particularly from the West to us. I think is a welcome development, and we salute the president of the NUJ for bringing forward this initiative.
All right. Blessing? Are you planning to go to Poland? So maybe this will give you the opportunity.
Well, not Poland, at least not now, but it's good for journalism in Nigeria. Sometimes that exposure also helps people understand how the profession is done elsewhere, so you're exposed to global best practices, not like the ones in Nigeria don't know best practices, but you interact with your colleagues from other climes, and the training also provides insight on how better you can improve on the job. So it's good that such training, such opportunities are opened up. We'll hope that more of such will open up. Remember a time when, I think it was Dubai, when some journalists were going to be trained on health reporting. So these trainings are very key, because journalism, it's a kind of job that you learn every day. You need updated skill every day to do it. It's not something that, because you've been taught in school or you've been in the profession for years, you do not need retraining. The retraining is on a daily basis.
All right, let's take the train of our news analysis to Ekiti State, where the governor has announced free malaria treatment and free delivery for pregnant women, for children under 5 years, and for elderly ones. Statistics show that malaria kills like 2.7 million globally annually, and that's to tell you it's a serious issue. It kills faster than any other element you can think of. And Africa is usually, you have more victims because we record more statistics when it comes to malaria, and that's why the governor of Ekiti State is taking that initiative to see how they can kick malaria out of Ekiti State, and by offering free malaria treatment to children under 5, to pregnant women, and to the elderly. Sam, what do you think?
Well, that tokenism from the governor of Ekiti State is welcoming, but the challenge for me, for those who operate in the public space, is better to strengthen the primary health care more than this tokenism where you just provide free malaria treatment for children. Is a good initiative, but I think the governor should dwell more on how to scale up primary health care so that we don't get to the level of how malaria has been endangering children in particular, and particularly with pregnant women. So they should have a policy framework in place where they can upscale the services of the general hospitals in the state rather than tokenism for political expediency. That's my personal view.
Aside providing supports, funding for the hospitals, whether primary health care or general hospitals, the main thing is the environment. This is where the Ministry of Environment needs to step in. Sanitation is very poor around here, very, very poor, and that's what gives rise to mosquitoes breeding. If we have a clean environment, if we do not have stagnant water around, do not have refuse dump open and littering every part of the, or almost every part of the city, it will to a great extent reduce malaria. Because if you're not bitten by mosquitoes, you have no need for the malaria drugs. So I think that basically that should be given a lot of attention. It is not enough to distribute nets. It is not enough to support hospitals with drugs. It is important that we also address the root cause of malaria, which is mosquitoes. You get rid of mosquitoes, then you get rid of malaria. So people need to understand that where they live in, how they keep the place is very important. You can't be talking about health when you're not clean. That's why they say cleanliness is next to godliness. We could also say cleanliness is next to being healthy and being malaria-free. So it's very important that we take care of our environments.
All right, let's wrap up this news analysis with the story on gas flaring, which is that the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, has signed a 7-year loan agreement to fund the construction of a gas processing facility in Bayelsa State. I love dwelling on statistics, and the one I came across about gas flaring in Nigeria is that for the past 10 years, Nigeria has lost about 9 trillion naira to gas flaring. That's huge, you know. So it's to tell you it's something that we've been contending with for years, and it's something we need to address. But I'm happy now this facility, you know, which is worth about $80 million, will be used to build a gas plant at Bayelsa in order to see how they can take advantage of the gas resources in that state. So, should we be glad for this?
Great loan from the African Export-Import Bank to develop the gas infrastructure, where even experts are saying that gas, Nigeria is more of a gas country rather than, yes. So what is key here is that once that facility is developed and they are able to connect people to that facility, then it will help to improve our transition into gas utilization, which is a welcome development. So we pray that that project in Bayelsa State come to a quick fruition, and the Afrexim must find a way to supervise that loan so that the project come within the timeline that is stipulated, and we can take advantage of gas utilization, particularly coming from that area.